Charles Barkley during the Final Four on TBS on Saturday. I believe this was, I don't even remember what part of the games it was. I'm not sure if this was during Baylor-Houston or if this was during the pregame for Gonzaga going up against UCLA. I do know this. What about that Miley Cyrus performance, by the way, in much less serious perspectives? They had like a full hour to fill between the two games, and so I left the television on. I had no idea Miley Cyrus was performing. I didn't know what was going on in general. And I know there's a lot of you out there, by the way, that are already looking at your television programming guides or whatever, and you're like, wait a minute, 9:20? Yeah, the game starts late for everybody out there on the East Coast in particular. The championship game between the Zags and Baylor will not start until 9:20 Eastern. But Charles Barkley, I thought, really nailed a big component and really spoke to a lot of sports fans. I think one of the things that Barkley does, one, he doesn't take himself that seriously. I think he's really funny, really engaging, one of the best sports personalities on television we've ever seen. In fact, I think you can argue, and I'm not even sure there's a close second, in terms of former athletes who have played the game at a high level, like pro athletes. I don't think there's anybody close to Charles Barkley as a television presence. There's lots of great former athletes who do sports. I think that Joel Klatt, Kirk Herbstreit do a phenomenal job, for instance, in college football. And John Gruden was great in the NFL when he was in the booth. Tony Romo right now is fantastic. But in terms of pro athletes who have transitioned to television, I'm not sure there's anybody more entertaining than Charles Barkley. And often why he's entertaining is because he has a great deal of common sense. And he connects well with a large swath of the population, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, whoever you are. I want you to listen to this and tell me that he didn't nail it to a large extent. Listen.
Shared that news, how painful it was.
Yeah, but the one thing I took out of that piece was, man, I think most white people and black people are great people. I really believe that in my heart. But I think our system is set up where our politicians, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, are designed to make us not like each other so they can keep their grasp of money and power. They divide and conquer. I truly believe in my heart most white people and black people are awesome people, but we're so stupid following our politicians, whether they're Republicans or Democrats. And their only job is, hey, let's make these people not like each other. We don't live in their neighborhoods. We all got money. Let's make the whites and blacks not like each other. Let's make rich people and poor people not like each other. Let's scramble the middle class. I truly believe that in my heart.
Okay, that's Barkley, I think, doing a fantastic job of talking about what is often going on in our country today. And I actually see a direct connection to that, to the decision that was made to pull the All-Star game out of Atlanta by Major League Baseball. Let me explain why. Whatever your politics are, I don't particularly care. Never have. I don't care who you voted for president. I don't care who you voted for Senate. I don't care if you don't vote at all. The great thing to me about sports is sports connects people across the board, no matter what your background is. If you were a Gonzaga fan, or if you were a Baylor fan, but let's stick on Gonzaga, when that shot was made, it didn't matter if you were a Republican, a Democrat, gay, straight, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, whether you were incredibly liberal or incredibly conservative. What sports does at its best is bring people together from divergent backgrounds and break through identity. Because what I believe is your identity is one of the least interesting things about you because you don't choose that. You don't choose, nobody does, what race we are when we're born. You don't choose, at least I don't believe, what sex you are attracted to. Some people can disagree. I don't think you choose. I think you're born that way, okay? You don't choose what your religion is oftentimes, right? Sometimes you may, but a lot of times you are born into a religious faith and you remain in that religious faith for much of your life. The things that you have as a part of your identity, your race, your ethnicity, your sexuality, that are not chosen, are oftentimes the least interesting things about yourself because they don't actually reflect any tangible choice that you are making. And yet they have become, according to many in our country today, the most important things about ourselves. Our identities are being used to slice and dice and disconnect us. And I believe sports at their best bring us all together. Because when you are in a stadium or an arena or anywhere that you've been on a team, when you celebrate, you don't think about differences. Sports is an incredibly unifying force. It cuts across tribal identities and differences and brings us all together in the best case of the world. Okay? So, what I have consistently been talking about for years on this program, and it upsets people, what I have said is I believe that sports should be a unifying, not a disunifying force. And what I mean by that is the more political you become, the more you take yourself outside of being able to connect with a lot of different people. And to me, sports should be nonpartisan, non-political at its best. I believe, and I'll believe this for the rest of my life, that the Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods era of sports, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, is the right era of sports. What do I mean when I say that? They tried to appeal to everyone. It didn't matter what your background was. If you watched Michael Jordan play in the 1990s, you were a part of the NBA experience. Same thing was true with Magic and Larry. White guy, black guy. Same thing was true with Tiger Woods, who refused to allow his identity to define him. And I believe what has happened is LeBron James has been an incredible force for making sports identity politics laden. I really do. And I think a lot of people have followed him off the cliff. It's why LeBron will never be Michael Jordan, because he has decided to be hyper-political, and he has alienated a ton of people with his politics. And LeBron's decision to be hyper-political has led to many others also deciding to be hyper-political, which led to the NBA pulling the All-Star game out of Charlotte and setting what I believe is a disastrous precedent for sports that has now been followed by Major League Baseball, because they have pulled the All-Star game, they have followed the NBA's lead, and they have pulled the Major League Baseball game out of Atlanta. In so doing, according to reports, they are going to cost the Atlanta area $100 million from the money that would have been made hosting that All-Star game, a huge percentage of which would have gone to black residents of Atlanta. They are pulling the All-Star game in the name of equality, and in the process, they are probably going to give it to a whiter city, and they're actually going to create more inequality. This is why even in Georgia, Democratic politicians were not in favor of the All-Star game being pulled out of Atlanta. None of them were. Senators, the high-level, high-ranking political officials in the state of Georgia, they all opposed it. And I think Major League Baseball has made a disastrous decision for its brand and for its audience going forward, because as I've been saying for a long time, get woke, you go broke. Major League Baseball got woke, and I believe they are going to make themselves broke relative to what their audience would have been if they had just played a 162-game season. We're going to talk about this with the governor of Georgia, dive into some of the specifics, but on its most basic level, why I repudiate this decision that was made by Major League Baseball is I think it divides us instead of unifying us. And I believe that I'm always going to believe for the rest of my life the Jordan the Tiger, the Larry Bird, the Magic Johnson era of sports was the one that brought everybody together. And I think there's a reason why the audience in the NBA, and I think Major League Baseball is going to bear the brunt of this too, is going to continue to decline. It's because they are alienating a massive part of their overall audience.